Okay children, now let me ask you a question. Have you ever wondered where the food comes from? The food which you have in the morning, maybe your rice, your dal, your chapati, your eggs, or whatever you have in the morning. Have you ever thought about it? Well, all of these food which you have, okay, it is from the farms. So who all are taking care of the farms? It is the farmers. It is the agriculturists who take the initiative or who take the effort of growing all of these food items so that the people can consume it, so that the people can eat it. Okay. So today we are going to do a lesson, agriculture, for your geography, chapter number 4, page number 45. Now let's have a look at what agriculture is. Now you can see crops are grown here, crops are harvested, isn't it? So all of these are done by your farmers. You can see how people are working on the farms. They are there with their bullocks, isn't it? They are plowing the field. So let's see what actually agriculture is. Now, agriculture is the science or practice of farming, including cultivation of the soil. That means you have to make the soil ready and keep it fit for agriculture. That means it should be fit where you can grow your crops, you can grow your vegetables, you can grow your fruits. For the growing of crops and the rearing of animals to provide food, wool and other products. So when you are talking about agriculture, children, please remember, it is not only the cultivation of crops, but other than that, what people do is they keep a large amount of animals. So animals which provide a lot of things for us. Maybe the meat, isn't it? The meat which you eat comes from the animals. The eggs which you have, isn't it? And the milk, the butter, the cheese. So it comes from all the animals which gives milk. So together, okay, so the cultivation of the land for the growing of crops as well as the rearing of animals is known as agriculture. Now there are two types of crops grown when people practice agriculture. So what are these two types of crops? Now first one is your food crop, second one is your cash crop. So what is food crop? So the crop which is grown for the consumption of the individual. That means it is a staple diet of the individuals. So people cannot live without having rice, isn't it? Without chapati. Okay. So all of these come under the food crops. So under your food crops you have rice, wheat, millet, which forms the staple diet of the individuals, and not only that, your vegetables and fruits also come under the category of food crop. Now next one is your cash crop. So by looking at the word cash only, it means something which will give you money, isn't it? That means these crops are grown specially for production. That means specially for sale, so that in return you get a large amount of income. Okay, for example, your cotton, your sugarcane, your jute. So they are the raw materials for the industries, and from this you can get other products. Okay, for example, your sugarcane. From sugarcane, what do you get? You get sugar, isn't it? From jute, what do you get? Your fruit mats, isn't it? Your rice sacks. So all of these are the raw materials. Okay, so they are usually grown so that in return you get a large amount of money, or you make a large amount of profit. So food, okay, which is usually produced for the consumption of the individuals, comes under the category of food crops. So it also includes your vegetables as well as your fruits. Then here you have your cash crop, which is able to consume, or which is able to fetch a large amount of money by the sale of these crops. So you can have a look at it. So under the fruit crops you have your soya bean, sunflower, rice, maize, bajra, wheat, grams and barley, which are usually consumed by the people, isn't it? Which forms a staple diet of the individual. And then on the other hand you have your cash crops. So under your cash crops you have sugarcane, tobacco, coffee and cotton. See, you can see these are the crops which fetches a large amount of income, and your food crops are the ones which form the staple diet of your individuals. Okay. Now we move on to the different agricultural practices. That means depending upon where you are going to grow your crops, where are you going to make your land fit for agriculture, or where can you rear your animals, is it, or where you can keep your animals. Okay, so based on the relief features, now where are you going to practice your agriculture, where are you going to grow your crops? Are you going to grow on the mountainous region, are you going to grow on the plain region? Okay, so let's have a look at the different agricultural practices based on the relief features. Now, first one is shifting cultivation. So what happens in shifting cultivation is that a patch of land is cleared by the farmers or the ones who are engaged in agriculture. So they either cut the trees or whatever vegetation is there, okay, unwanted vegetation is there, or they might burn it so that they keep the land fit for agriculture. So some crops are grown in that part of the land. Okay, so after some time, now what happens is that land loses its fertility. Now they move to the other patch of land. So they practice the same, isn't it? They practice the same method of clearing it and making the soil fit for agriculture. And then they go on moving from one place to another. At the end, again they come back to the same place, because now that place has regained its fertility. Now the soil again becomes fertile. Okay, so this type of shifting cultivation is practiced in Northeast India, Southeast Asia and the Amazon basin, where you have plenty of rainfall. Next, you have your terrace farming. So this type of farming is usually practiced in the mountainous regions. So since Pakyong area is also a mountainous region, so when you are going anywhere, isn't it? So you might have seen such structures there. Okay, the land has been turned into a terrace. Now you can practice your agriculture, especially in the hilly regions or in the valleys. So the land is made in such a way that there is less amount of soil erosion, and then it will be easier for the farmers to grow the crops here. Okay, so especially in Northeast India, China, Japan, Philippines and the Mediterranean, this type of terrace farming is done. Now on the other hand, now we move on to the purpose of farming. So why are they practicing farming? Why are they growing crops? For what purpose are they growing crops? Okay, so based on the purpose, we can say that there are different purposes for which the crops are grown. So first one is subsistence agriculture. So subsistence agriculture means where the farmer grows just for the want of the people. Want for the local people only. That means crops are not grown in plenty, just enough for the people. Okay, so they do not have enough crops which can be sold or which can be taken to other places. It is just enough for the people, so that the people can consume it, so that the people can use it. Okay, and very less is kept for transport. So you can see, so less amount of land is also there to grow the different types of crops, and even if the crops or vegetables are grown, it is not grown in plenty, it is just enough for the individuals. So this type of subsistence farming is practiced in Southeast Asia. Now next one is intensive farming. That means this is a sort of a commercial farming or for commercial purpose. So the main purpose for growing different types of crops is to make profit, to make a large amount of profit, or usually for the sale of the crops. Okay, and they usually use high quality seeds, very hybrid quality seeds, and they also make use of fertilizer so that they can produce the best, so that they can make a large amount of profit. Okay, so this large amount of profit. So this type of intensive farming is usually practiced in highly developed countries. Now next one is your commercial or extensive farming. Now especially in commercial and extensive farming, now we have very large stretches of land which is under cultivation. Okay, so they produce a large amount of crops, and besides that they also keep a large amount of animals as well. So they can make profit not only by the sale of these crops but also by the sale of these animals. Okay, maybe animal products are got from the animals which they keep, and then they make use of very advanced technological machines. So you can see here, isn't it? So it will not be possible for only individuals to work in this farm. So what they do is they make use of different machines, so they can keep different types of animals side by side with the crops they have grown on the farms. Okay, and here when they are growing the crops, it is not only the food crops that they grow, but it is even the cash crops which they grow. It is not only for the consumption of the individuals but as well as for the sale of the crops also. They have very large amount of land, and this comes under your commercial or extensive farming. Now next one is your plantation farming. So in plantation farming, what happens is there is extensive farm. It's not a small farm but very extensive farm where only one type of crop is grown. And when these types of crops are grown, it is usually for the purpose of making a large amount of profit. For example, tea plantation, isn't it? You have rubber plantation, you have tobacco plantation or cotton plantation. So you have huge farms where only one type of crop is grown. Okay, and usually these farms are looked after by the laborers who reside in that particular area only. Okay, your cotton, your tea, your rubber, your cocoa and your sugar cane are also grown in very large plantation. Now we move on to the agriculture in India. Now almost half of the population in India are engaged in agriculture. So we are dependent indirectly or directly on agriculture. So agriculture has been the backbone of India. Okay, so in the earlier stages also we've seen that in the old stone age, now people did not lead a settled life. So what was the reason behind the people not leading a settled life? Because they did not know how to produce crops. So that's why they had to wander from one place to another, isn't it, in search of food. But later on, now what happened was people began to till the land, okay, or they began to sow the seeds, and then they developed the practice of agriculture. And when we look at the different civilizations of the world, I think we have done the Indus Valley civilization, the Sumerian civilization, the Mesopotamian, isn't it, the Chinese, the Indus Valley. So all of these civilizations flourished near the riverside. So what was the reason behind these civilizations flourishing near the riverside? The reason was that there was plenty of water, and not only plenty of water, so usually the land near the river banks were very fertile so that they could grow a large amount of crops. Okay, so that's why most of the Indians are also farmers, or they are very much dependent on agriculture. Okay, and now in India there are two cropping seasons, the Kharif and the Rabi crops. Now let's have a look at what are Kharif crops. So are usually sown with the beginning of the first rains in July during the southwest monsoon season. So these crops are grown during the rainy season. Okay, so some of the major crops which are grown in India that come under the Kharif crops are millets, okay, paddy, maize, moong, that is pulses, groundnut, red chilies, cotton, soybean, sugarcane, turmeric, etc. So these are some of your Kharif crops which are grown or which are sown during the rainy season. Rice, corn, soybean, sugarcane, okay, groundnut and cotton. Now these are also your Kharif crops. And then we move on to the Rabi crops. So these are the two seasons. Okay. Now it is sown in October last and harvested in March, April every year. That means these crops are usually grown during the winter months. Okay. So it includes wheat, barley, mustard, sesame, yeast, etc. So these are some of your Rabi crops: wheat, oat, chickpea, mustard, almond, and broccoli. Okay, so these are the two seasons, cropping seasons in India: Kharif and your Rabi. Now, besides the crops which are grown in India, so a large amount of individuals in India are also involved in animal husbandry. So what is animal husbandry? So the branch of agriculture which deals with the feeding, shelter, health and breeding of domestic animals is called animal husbandry. So people keep a large amount of cows, goats, buffaloes, donkeys, goats, ducks, hens, etc. Okay, so why are they keeping all of these animals? Is these animals are also going to give a lot of food, provide food for the people, isn't it? They provide us with meat, sometimes they provide us with the eggs, sometimes they provide us with the wool. Okay, so there are a large amount of animals which are kept under the control of the individuals, or they take care of each of these animals. So they not only provide food for the people, but what they do is they also give help to the people. For example, you've seen the bullocks, isn't it? What do the bullocks do? They are usually used in order to till the land, in order to plow the field, and especially when you go to the villages, what do you see? There are carts drawn by this bullocks, isn't it? And then besides that, you have horses, you have donkeys. So what do these horses and donkeys do? They carry a lot of load from one place to another. Okay, and especially in the colder regions also you have the yaks, isn't it? So they also provide milk for the people, and people living in the coastal regions, or the peoples whose houses are very close to the sea, they are very involved in fishing. So fish also provides a source of income for the individuals. So they catch the fish, they sell the fish, and in return they make a large amount of profit. And not only that, fish is also consumed by the individuals. Okay, so in India also very large emphasis is laid on the improvement of animal husbandry. Maybe some hospitals are there where these animals can be treated, isn't it? So that they do not fall victims of different diseases. So you have heard about the veterinary hospitals, isn't it? Where when each of these animals fall sick, so they are taken to these hospitals where you have the veterinarians who are experts, so they know what type of medicines are to be given to those animals. Okay, so animal husbandry and livestock rearing is also given a lot of emphasis in India besides growing the crops. Now finally we move on to an individual by the name of Norman Borlaug. So why is he associated with agriculture? Okay, so in the beginning, okay, now especially in the olden days, or let's say now especially in the mid 19th or the 20th century, so he found out that many of the people were starving. So starving means they were not getting enough food to eat, so they were dying. So he found out the reason as to why these people were dying. So the reason behind it was that the people were not getting enough food to eat. So he is considered as the father of the Green Revolution. So Borlaug helped lay the groundwork for agricultural technological advances that alleviated world hunger. That means he toured the world and saw that why were the people dying. So the people were dying because of hunger. But he did not just find out as to why the people were dying, and he did not just sit back. But what he did was, now he began to adopt, okay, or make the people adopt advanced methods of agriculture, so that they could produce crops at a very large amount, so that none of the individuals go hungry, none of the individuals starve, okay, starve to death. And then he started to make use of high yielding varieties of cereal grains, expansion of irrigation facility, okay, and thereby what happened was many of the people were now prevented, or they were secured, or their lives became secured because now they have food to eat. So there was no question of them starving to death. So especially in countries like Mexico, India, Pakistan, Philippines, okay. So these methods which Norman Borlaug had adopted, okay, or he had started, was adopted by these countries, and these countries now started to make a large amount of profit by growing different varieties of crops, by making use of fertilizers, by making use of good quality seeds, okay, or by the use of the irrigation facilities. Okay, so with this we come to the end of the chapter on agriculture. So what I would like you all to do is go through the chapter, read the chapter once. Okay, so go through all the names of the different types of crops, the different countries where each of these crops are grown, and then the different types of agriculture, okay, the different practices of agriculture which is adopted. So with this we come to the end of the chapter. So in the days to come we shall be sending you the work, the assignment. So make sure you do all of these assignments in your copies and keep it properly. Thank you. Stay safe, stay home.